Hello everyone, friends. A fresh review of Bitcoin. Well, yesterday we had legendary grand events to which the market is not reacting very well. Actually, Bitcoin is trading at the mark of $86,000. So now let's figure out what exactly happened. What did Donald Trump say yesterday? What did Jerome Powell say? Because they talked a lot and much of it was uncertain. Let's try to highlight the most important essence. Let's move on to the charts. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, my dear friends, I strongly advise you to subscribe to my Telegram channel so you don't miss any important information or updates. Join in, subscribe. The link is under the video. My Telegram channel, Falcon Investors, is right here. Well, now let's get to the point. So let's break it down into several things. Let's start with the most crucial part. Let's take a look at what's happening on the Bitcoin chart. Because essentially, our situation hasn't changed much, but it feels like the resolution is getting closer and closer, right? Let's see what has happened. $92,000 is a key level. I mention this every time. As a reminder, then we have this kind of movement. Let's call it a bearish flag for now. Essentially, we're trading all this time below the key zone, below the resistance zone, and between the 200-day moving average. Accordingly, we're getting squeezed. And what is happening, let me show you, clearly on the 4-hour time frame. Let me open it like this so it's more visible. We are not breaking the structure in the opposite direction. Meaning, look, we have a downward movement going. Then, actually, we went up, seemingly breaking the $92,000 zone, then pulled back. And now look at the next high. We haven't updated it. That is, if our high had moved up to here, then accordingly, with high probability, we would have consolidated in this range and would be fighting here. But no, we didn't update the next high and continued trading below the key breakdown level. And accordingly for me, the probability of moving down is now increasing. So some kind of scenario like this, I keep it very, very much in mind. And so actually, let me show you how it looks on the daily chart. On the daily chart, it fits very well with what we have been discussing over the past few days. And still, for me, the zone of $63,000, $73,000 is the target. Personally, I would really like Betocek to come there. There, you can make good purchases. And I still don't believe that after this, we will suddenly drop significantly lower. Most likely, in my view of the world, there will be some kind of development cycle. We will still see Bitcoin somewhere above, I don't know, $130,000, $140,000. And only after that will we enter a deep bear phase. Of course, I could be wrong, but so far everything I see on the chart aligns very well with what I had anticipated. So for now, we are acting accordingly. So the situation is as follows. The key moment is consolidating above $92,000, then we will move higher accordingly. What I see as more likely are the levels below. The local long levels are 82,900, then 79,300, and then the zone around $4,000. These are the key low levels. I honestly doubt the probability that we will go straight down to 63. I think it might just happen somehow like this, pam. And basically they took, I don't know, around 70. And after that they shot up. So I'm not saying that we will just slide all the way down to 63. It's just that $63,000 is the main trading volume of all this large liquidity. That's why I marked this zone for myself. As for Bitcoin, I think everything should be clear here. What you agree with, disagree with, write in the comments. If it's useful, be sure to give it a like. Now let's talk about Trump, about Powell. Before that, a little traditional reminder. My dear ones, if you trade, always trade on a quality exchange. I've been trading on the Bybit exchange for many years. They are good, reliable partners. For me, so if you don't have an account, I strongly advise you to register. Try using my link, my promo code. Under this video, you'll find the best commission conditions and up to $30,000 in bonuses on your first deposit, so make sure to join in and register. But now let's move on to the news. So, after yesterday's events, the fear and greed index has slightly risen into the fear zone. That's where we are. Nevertheless, let's go in order. First, Jerome Powell spoke, so let's start with him. So, let's proceed, but in reverse order. After his speech, our expectations are roughly as follows. Let me even open it up for you to see clearly. The expectation is as follows. So, a pause on March 19th, a pause on March 7th, and then on June 18th. That is in mid-June, the first reduction. Considering the fact that, remember, I mentioned that the second cycle, the second wave of the bull market might come around May. This is quite good. It fits just right, as in June, July, we expect a reduction by May. Perhaps amidst all this, some branch might push this whole thing further. So, what was the backdrop for all this happening? I won't read everything, but I noted 2 key points for myself. Point 1, the Federal Reserve doesn't need to rush. With the decision on the interest rate, it's necessary to get more clarity on macro data. They are looking at inflation, they are looking at unemployment, they are looking at the employment level. These are the key things. And the next point, there is a high risk of economic consequences due to changes in trade policy. The trade war, that's what I was telling you about. Remember, I said that when tariffs are raised, accordingly, all of this ultimately gets passed on to the people. For example, Trump raised, let's say, the tariff by 25% for some country like Canada. Goods that came from Canada now cost 25% more on the shelf. People spend 25% more money on them. They go to their employer and say, give me more money. My purchasing power has decreased. Accordingly, for the employer to retain the employee, they need to pay more money. And in turn, they also need more money. And it's like a cycle. When inflation starts to accelerate again in a spiral, hence this whole story. And additionally, this can naturally have a very mixed impact on the economic growth rates and GDP growth rates. Because on one hand, it should stimulate the development of domestic production and so on. On the other hand, as you understand, it's not all happening linearly, and today's world is not like that. That if goods from Canada or China become more expensive for us, it means we will start producing them ourselves. Not at all. It's not that simple and not that linear. So we observe. Otherwise, you can read on my screen all the key thoughts, key points. You can pause and read. These are the 2 key thoughts to pay attention to. So we are waiting for a rate cut in June. Now let's move on. So the reaction is evident. Yes, guys, so here's the S&P 500. Let me open it. Take a look. So the S&P 500 has reached the 200-day moving average here. It has hit this point. Accordingly, overall, as long as we are above 200, no problems. The question will be if we fall below, because if we fall below, then overall the S&P 500 to the nearest zone, let's mark it like this, is 5,500. That is, it falls quite normally. And overall, this fits quite well into a correction, but then it will be painful for Bitcoin and everything else. This would already mean going below the 200-day moving average. All right, let's get back to the summit. So the summit is a complete flop. That is no specifics. Nothing was given to us that could somehow be positively help the market or anything else. They basically just filled it with fluff. Let me comment on this fluff. So it's the same as when Trump already signed an order. Accordingly, we've heard all this before. Make America the crypto capital of the world, blah, blah, blah. Create a crypto reserve, blah, blah, blah. So how are we going to create it? We already have 200,000 Bitcoins. How we will acquire more Bitcoins is unclear. They said we definitely won't be selling. There might be some mining involved. So there won't be any massive investments in Bitcoin right now. The reserves won't be increased drastically. So let's just not sell what we already have. Biden, because he was a jerk, sold all of it. But we are good guys, crypto enthusiasts. We won't sell. In the long term, this is actually good because they might look for ways to still buy. They might potentially start mining. Other owners, other state leaders might look and say, well, these guys have started making reserves and we don't have any confiscated Bitcoins, so let's start buying. This might trigger some kind of trend, but not in the short term. This is not something that affects the market right here and now. On the positive side, which is very important, look, this amendment, I want the legislation on stablecoins to be adopted before the August recess. That's the first thing. And then, accordingly, Scott Bessent from the US Treasury also made several important comments stating that they will pay a lot of attention to the creation of a regulatory framework, a legal framework for stablecoins. They will stop repressing the crypto industry, which is also important, and the US Lotto will strengthen the dominance of the dollar thanks to stablecoins. In other words, they are not saying that this will somehow contradict. On the contrary, they see it as a strengthening. And one more important final point, the Trump administration said that we will repeal and amend all previous recommendations by the US IRS regarding cryptocurrency. Because right now there are many nuances about how to pay taxes, how to calculate it. All of this is done in a completely messed up way. These are the positive news. The key point, all of this will work in the long term. In the long term, I'm bullish, but locally, this doesn't give us any buying power and doesn't provide anything that could positively influence the local situation. Therefore, we are looking exclusively at the chart. Guys, I suggest that we should simply rely on key levels and zones here, where we can expect BTC. In fact, you all know the zone. All the zones are marked. If Bitcoin comes into the 63.73 zone, it will be a real treat. For me personally, I will be buying here extensively, with the expectation that after this, Bitcoin could potentially give, let's say, 2x, possibly, meaning it could grow significantly to somewhere around here. I allow for the possibility that all the liquidity of this cycle will flow entirely into Bitcoin and into alts. We might simply not see the kind of performance we used to. Therefore, the key bet is on Bitcoin. As funny as it may sound, especially for those who probably have a small deposit, what is it? 2%, not us. 2x on Bitcoin. For those looking at the longer term, I think it's very, very, very good. That's all, my dear ones. All you need to know for today. To get the maximum profit in the market, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss new releases. And of course, every comment is very important to me. So please don't hesitate. Go under the video right now, hit the like button, and share. In the comments, share your thoughts, what is clear, what is unclear, share your opinion on the future development of events. On the topic of how the Crypto Summit went, it will be interesting to read everything. Wishing everyone great profits. Hugs, bye for now.